About 5,000 Minnesotans have served in Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001. Now there's a bold effort underway to raise millions of dollars to support the state's military men and women and their families. The daily images of war in Iraq get beamed back to this country every day. For the families of the soldiers back home, it can be agonizing, especially during a week when there are reports of so many casualties.
It's appropriate that we are here today not only to pay tribute to them, but tribute to all the Minnesotans who served.
Former Senator Rudy Boschwitz is among the leaders of an effort to raise $10 million for a Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund. The goal is to provide cash grants to all Minnesota military personnel who serve in a combat zone. The biggest grants will go to those who are wounded or the families of soldiers who are killed.
It isn't compensation, it's thanks. And the money happens to be one of the ways we can say thanks.
General John Vesey is a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who's lending his support to the fundraising effort along with some former governors. Marcia Hergott of Shakopee appreciates what they're trying to do from a unique perspective. Her son, Army Private Edward Hergott, was the first Minnesotan killed in Iraq back in 2003. What would he be thinking about what you're doing to kind of carry on his memory?
Way to go, Mom. That's what he would say.
And organizers acknowledge $10 million is a lofty goal, but a local investment firm has already donated $1 million to get things started. And joining me now is Eugene Sit from Sit Investments to tell us a little bit about why you decided to take part in this and help spearhead it and also donate a considerable amount of money. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks, Tom. I guess the more you learn about the sacrifices of the men and women who were there, their families, and how fortunate we are in having them defend our freedom and liberty. And we have so much to be thankful for, and that we should remember these men and women. And that's really the impetus to the whole effort.
And you know, they do get some benefits from serving in combat. There are some financial things that they get from the government, but it's never quite enough. But as General Vesey said in that piece a moment ago, it's really not about trying to compensate them. It's just a way of showing some form of thank you.
That's exactly right. It's very, very small. Probably the financial gifts will not mean very much, but the idea that we thank the men and women who are basically our neighbors for their service and commitments and sacrifices, and we think that touching these people will mean an awful lot. And that's really what we're talking about.
And why did you personally decide to get so involved, helping spearhead the effort, and then you, your firm, and your family donating so much money to really 10% of what the goal is that you're trying to get here?
Well, I might say we need every bit of that, given the number of people involved and the needs of the wounded and the families of those killed in action. We figured that by time this, hopefully I'm an optimist here, if this war winds down by year-end '06, roughly 8,000 Minnesotan reservists, Guard members, active duty who are still residents in Minnesota will have served. And as for my family, we feel deeply about this. I think what we're talking about really embody Minnesota values, something that you and I have been brought with, and I knew you when you were a kid growing up in the neighborhood. And so we're very, very pleased to be a part of it, and hopefully we can provide some of the leadership.
And when we're talking about these grants, let's give people an idea of what you're talking about. If there's a family left behind by somebody who's killed in combat, you're talking about a $10,000 grant from the fund. Soldiers who are wounded, $2,500 to $10,000, depending on the severity of their wound. And then smaller grants to people who just serve in combat, but still a token of thanks.
Those are our objectives, but just the whole idea that we're thankful for what they've done, for the sacrifice that they made, their family. We think that, in addition to the financial assistance, will go a long way in touching the lives of these families.
What kind of reaction are you getting from not just Minnesotans who have heard a little bit about this program, but in particular the veterans, people who have served, maybe not in this war, but in previous wars as well?
I think the best example yesterday, and as you know, we had the public launch on Wednesday, we got a call from a gentleman who's from Texas, and he's a veteran of World War II in Korea. And he said he's up here for medical treatment. He has cancer. He has a daughter here. And he said he heard about the news announcements and so forth, and he started to be very skeptical. And the first question, and he said, how much are we paying the politicians for being up there to say these good things about MMAF? And after his very inquisitive questioning, we said, really nothing. Governor Anderson, Senator Boswich, and Governor Carlson and others, they really believe this is the right thing to do, and they want to provide some of the leadership support.
And have volunteered their time like so many others.
That's right, and help us. It's really wonderful. And his second question, he said, well, how much are you paying yourself in taking these grants to meet the expenses? A very rightful question. I said, really very, very little. We hope that 98 cents of every dollar we raise will go toward helping our men and women.
So very little overhead.
That's right. In fact, at my firm and many volunteers are out there helping us. We have so many people to be thankful for. And then he asked about how do we arrive at the criteria and making sure that everybody's treated fairly. And even though he's not a Minnesota resident, he concluded by saying, well, I don't have much longer to live, and I'm not rich, but I'm going to send you a check for $1,000. That really makes everything worthwhile.
Wow, that is a very powerful example of the good you can do with this kind of effort, and it's the only effort of its kind in the United States. And I know you're hoping to have Senator John McCain in for a fundraiser in October.
Correct.
He's a big supporter of this idea, and you hope other states might pick up the same idea.
Well, thanks to you all in the media, it's only been 2 days, but I think 70 newspapers around the country have picked up the news story from AP, including the likes of the Washington Post, the LA Times, and so forth. We just hope that we can set the example for the rest of the country, because our troops, whether they're Minnesota residents or others, they certainly deserve that vote of thanks.
All right, well, Gene Sit, you're to be commended for the $1 million you have thrown in to get this thing started. And if people want to donate, you'll take any amount, any donation that people want to send in. Again, you say 98 cents on the dollar is your goal. Will go toward people who serve in these combat zones. You can go to KSTP.com, look on As Seen on 5, and you will find a way to link to your website.
Thank you.
All right.